Buenas tardes, buenos días, buenas noches a la hora que usted esté viendo este episodio. Bienvenido a otro programa de Sobreviviendo, mis hijos. Hoy tenemos una invitada súper especial. Mrs. Lee es la fundadora de USP y nos sentimos súper honrados de que esté con nosotros. Este episodio va a ser en inglés, va a estar subtitulado para los que no pueden entenderlo. Y bueno, tenemos aquí un súper traductor que nos va a ayudar en el momento que estemos más perdidos.
Directo del Javier.
Directo. No creo que tu inglés sea del Javier, pero ok. Esto es Sobreviviendo mis hijos podcast. Síganos en nuestras redes sociales, @sobreviviendo mis hijos podcast. Denle like a la campanita, denle a la campanita para que les llegue el aviso de un episodio nuevo. Y nada, compartan con amor a quien usted considere que va a necesitar escuchar esto. Vamos a hablar sobre escuela, cómo funciona la dinámica dentro de los salones de clase, cómo es esta nueva tendencia, neurociencias, etc. ¿Algo más?
No, está cool.
Está cool, básicamente. Hasta nutrición vamos a hablar. Así que, bueno, síganos y esto comienza así. Este programa es presentado por NaN Supreme Pro 3. Sorpréndete de tu pequeño siempre. The Little Gym. Serious Fun. Y una producción de Es Podcast.
So, thank you for coming to the show. So the plan here is to talk about what you're doing in Panama. So, as a parent, first time getting to schools with kids, it was pretty difficult finding a school. When I was finishing my fellowship program, I learned from Doctora Rivera how a school should be these days. That was like 2010, 13, something like that. So we were talking about what school should do for a kid, what should offer for a kid, how everything works around the school, and how that's going to help the brain of the kid develop. Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of tours in schools in Panama, and then we found yours. And when we got out of the school, it was like, oh, this is all the stuff that Dr. Rivera told me like to find for a school. And so that's when USP came to the talk about like going to school with the kids. So what makes different the school classroom at your school different from the other schools? What do you think is different from? Or what are you trying to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think first, before we get into the classroom, we have to think about everything that goes before the classroom. We actually, how you start your day is how you lead the rest of your day.
Oh.
We lead very sedentary lives nowadays. We go to sleep 8 to 10 hours a day, sedentary. We go to breakfast, sitting down, sedentary. We get on the bus about an hour to an hour and a half, sedentary. Then we get to class 8 to 9 hours a day, sedentary. And then we get home and we're still sedentary. Mm-hmm. The brain works exactly like a mouse on the computer. When the mouse stops moving, ¿qué pasa la pantalla? Turns off, it shuts off, igualito como nosotros. So it's how many times have all of us been in the classroom where we're saying, and we all have that moment. It's because we're sedentary. So that's why the world of neuroscience and neuroeducation is so imperative in every school system around the world, because if we don't understand the human brain, how are we going to even understand how to teach yesterday? So that's why it's so important to think about, before you're looking for schools, you're going to think about what are all the things that encompass in our daily lives that affect our going to sleep, our breakfast with our kids. Do we actually get to drive our kids to school? Here in Panama, is like this on the map. But you look at this like traffic every single day. Mm-hmm. So when we think about what we're doing when we're looking for schools, location. I can't stress it enough, because number one, we want our babies close to us for security. But number two, let's start thinking about what our babies see from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. Who are they with? Where are they going? And what are they doing? So one of the things is sleep. And that's why it's a major pillar over at USP, because we factor sleep into the curriculum. How? Most children in this country wake up 2 hours before their first class. Yes. Apúrense. Ponte la ropa, traga la comida, ya está.
Vamos.
And that's the life of most children in this country.
Most adults even.
Yeah.
So if
like
you
that,
think
yeah.
about it, if baby is waking up at 5:30 in the morning, what time is mommy waking up? So then when you think about that, we need actually 8 to 10 hours of full sleep. One of the last stages is deep sleep. It's when our brains go into the most busiest moments of our day. And so when you think about that, it's when we discard information and retain information. And if we're talking about learning, we better talk about retainment. And it starts at home. It starts at home first. So that's why you have to look at, what does school life entail before we even get to class? Because if our kids are waking up 2 hours before their first class, they're most likely not getting enough sleep to even retain when they get to school. So we have to think about that. Then we have to think about activation. I mean, when you're understanding neuroscience and neuroeducation, the natural hormones about how our brains actually work, the whole purpose of exercise in the morning, it is one of the most beneficial things, not only heart healthy, but brain. And so through exercise in the morning, how we have it at our school is that, all of the kids, all faculty, all students, and all teachers, we meet on the courts. That's our first class of the day. So we start off between 20 to 25 minutes of Tai Chi, hula, haka, aerobic exercise. That way they get out their energy in a positive way. But it's more to start the stimulation of their dose, which is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. Those are the 4 major hormones necessary for brain cell growth. And so when you think about that, that's also for retainment. So we talk about retainment again. We talk about retainment through sleep, and now we're talking about physical education. So if our kids are coming in on the bus, sedentary, and they get into class 8 to 9 hours a day, sedentary. I mean, if you think about our little babies, Lucas in the classroom, 8 to 9 hours a day, la silla, mesa, pizarra, 90% of their day. I mean, what are we really trying to do here? We're working against Mother Nature. And every time we do that, we always lose. So that's why we have to start understanding neurology. We have to start understanding biology. I mean, it's really not, I know for a lot of parents, it might sound daunting. But when you think about education today, it can't look like what we used to know.
Yeah, it's not the same. Everything changed. Medicine changed. Laws changed. So schools have to change. So part of bringing you here, it's also about talking about how awesome the school is, but it's trying to see if we can reach more people, to see if we can reach the people that we need to reach to try to change the school system in Panama. So we would like to offer opportunities to people to come and see what's going on and see how it can change the brain in the kids.
I think the first way is that we have to start re-educating the next generation of parents, what they need to look out for when they're going to schools. Why? Because if there's a demand, then the others will listen.
Wow.
And so that's why it's very important to start re-educating people in the sense of what we knew yesterday. I mean, it's 2025 for the most of us, but we're preparing those minds for 2045. What is the world going to look like then? What are the skills? What are all the dynamics that we can't even predict right now what it's going to look like? But one of the major components that defines success in every human is flexibility and adaptability. I mean, the only constant in this world is change. And that's where education has to fit in. It has to change, it has to keep up to date, but it also has to have that forefront to think about what we need to prepare our children today so they can look at tomorrow and stand on their own 2 feet. Because we have to think about our lives right now. If we have young children, if you have young children right now, you have to remember that even though we're so busy day to day, this is the most, how would you say, exciting time in our lives. Why? Because we have a beautiful family that's still growing. Our babies are still babies. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than what we're living at this very moment. So that's why as a family, when we're looking at major decisions, and I always tell parents, please, when you're going to get to know schools, you're not just going to get to know the school. You have to get to know quién está detrás de, who is behind the actual project. Why? Because those people are the ones who are going to be telling you not only how fast we're willing to go, but how far we're willing to actually work towards. And it's important to think about, even if a school is 4 years old or 40 years old, there is a necessary for growth, not just for students, but as well for teachers and as well for the community. So I think it's very important that when we are designing our lives as our family, whatever it is that we envision for our children, whatever those values are that we want to see, it has to very much match school. Why? We are second home. They're going to be with us the majority of their waking hours than with you. So that's why school and home, estamos en el mismo barco, ya no el mismo puente. I think that it's time that schools, we need to be the most transparent possible, because it's a long-term commitment. I mean, this is one of the biggest investments that you make, not only for your children, but for your entire family. So that's why, we can't joke ourselves and think, oh, okay, but my friend goes here. Oh, okay, but I know this school for a long time. Times have changed, and so are we.
No, y que estamos acostumbrados a lo que tú decías. Se toma la decisión porque me dijeron que esta escuela es buena, o todos mis sobrinos van a esta escuela, o yo fui a esa escuela. Ojo, puede que para ti haya sido una gran experiencia y hayas aprendido un montón y seas un excelente profesional, bien. Pero es lo que dice Mrs. Lee, los tiempos cambian y la demanda tiene que ser distinta por parte de nosotros, porque no vamos a pedir lo que no sabemos que existe.
Claro.
Y sí es cierto que este tipo de educación que está cambiando no está en todos lados. O sea, ni es accesible para todo el mundo. Entonces, ¿cómo hacer para masificar esta o educar a los padres, a los profesores, incluso hasta el sistema educativo? Es un gran trabajo, es difícil.
So, I think it's, how do we change the mind of the teachers? How do we get to them to understand what's going on, of the new research that's tell about how the school classrooms should be instead of what they're doing? So it's pretty difficult try to achieve those places.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because I do all the interviews for school, and I'm very lucky because I get to handpick each one under our roof. And there's a question that I always go back to. And you always have, experience, demeanor, language, schooling behind them, etc. But one of my main questions when I interview is, I need to know how hungry they are. That is my determining factor to see if they are willing to take the challenge to work at our school. Because it's not, not every school is for everyone, and not everyone is for every school.
That's very important.
So that's why as parents, we have to do our homework. We have to get to know, whatever it is that it's our vision has to be shared vision with the school. So that's why, yes, we have to go and see all of our choices to make the best educated decision for our family. But when you're thinking about teachers and people in general, you have to see how hungry are they, because that is the determining factor of how willing they are and how open they are to change. And change is the only constant. So when I interview, I ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? What is it that you want to do? What are your specialties? Aside from teaching, where are all your talents? And so that's why I'm able to help craft a position that takes all of their current talents, takes all the things that they want to see for themselves, and combine it into a position where there's growth. I think that all teachers, we all are kind of bird of a feather flock together. We are the type of people where we get bored very easily and very fast. That's why we love children, because we're working and not 1 second will ever be the same.
Yeah.
And all children, they bring light, they bring innocence, they bring joy, they're fun. And so, you stick us in a cubicle and we'll just wither away. But when you put us in the school system, one of the most beautiful things is that change, that constant change. But a teacher, once they don't feel that they're growing, that's when they start looking. And that's when they start thinking, let me find a different experience. So they hop from school to school. And as you can see here in Panama, you see a lot of changes in teachers consistently in a lot of schools. I don't really see that at USB. I think we have probably a 1% change throughout the year. I think it's a beautiful thing, but I think that people at USP they are very connected to our vision. They are part of our mission. And when they feel that they are part of something that's much bigger than themselves, that's why we've had such a beautiful growth in the 4 years that we've been.
Your stuff, they're different at your school compared to other schools. So if you go to a classroom, you're not gonna see like the teacher's table or a chair and a bunch of desks of the kids, one in front of the other one, because I went to a meeting at your school and you had this neurodevelopment professor from
Dr. Leisman.
I think it was from New York,
Israel,
yeah. And he was explaining like how that doesn't work. Like if you go to a classroom and you're sitting like in a movie theater and there's this teacher speaking and people are just like listening to him, at some moment you're gonna lose the concentration because you lose attention.
Claro.
So we always tell parents that attention is an involuntary thing. If you get kids' attention, then you get them to concentrate. So I think that's pretty good what you're doing at your school, because it allows the kids to be concentrate because they have all the teacher attention.
I think that, connection is everything. But before you get to the connection is communication. And when you think about it, this current generation, Generation Alpha, they will already lose over 70% of their human interaction compared to the generation that precedes them.
Wow.
And so when you think about society and how it's changing with AI, etc., as schools, we have the obligation to start thinking about how we also need to change along with society so that we can make sure that we're giving them the skills necessary. So if you go to a traditional classroom, you have 25 students, 25 pupitre, mirando la pizarra blanca. What happens with this is that 90% of the day, our babies, they're looking at the back of somebody's head. And communication is make it or break it in this world, be it professional and be it a personal relationship. So the reason why when you go through our classrooms, every classroom is designed very specifically towards its subject. So it has a completely different ambiance, but as well the same thing. It's at USB, everybody knows everybody. And it's not just because we exercise in the morning all together as a class. It's not just because we see each other in transitions every 40 minutes. It's because when you think about the classrooms, so our students rotate every 40 minutes like a mini university to a different area, mentor, subject, theme. There's always something different because we work at students' pace and not the other way around. So when you have that in a traditional school, Lucas will sit next to A and B. And it's very limiting because 90% of his day la hacía mesa pizarra. So then now here at our school, where you go from classroom to classroom every 40 minutes, you're going to see that by the end of every child school day, they would have sat next to at least 80% of their friends within the classroom. How? Because when you go up to the Spanish room, there are 4 tables. When you go to the language arts room, there will be 3 tables. When you go to the science room, there's 10 tables. So there's always a different dynamic. And we make them work into situations where they naturally don't choose because, remember, we are our first limit. I want to sit with my BFF, pero tú no. And even adults do that.
Yes.
Sí, exacto.
So it's very sad to see that, but that's why we have to start opening up the lines of communication and put them into situations where they're made to work together. And that's, one of the most beautiful things of why everybody knows everybody. And it's a very familiar, one of the most beautiful things about being a boutique school is controlling numbers. I think that, a lot of times as parents, we look for big school, big everything, big, big, big. But now we have to really start realizing that at this moment, while our children are still under our roofs, sometimes the best things are the smallest things. Boutique school is a large terrain for the amount of students that we will accept. So we only accept 50 students per grade level purposely. Okay. What I told my husband is that in any business, no matter what business it is, once you pass a number, you become a number. And we didn't build this school from scratch to do that. That's why we control numbers very much so, because quantity is very much tied to quality. And so we have to make sure that we're able to give the best quality and differentiation in the classroom, but that really starts with numbers always.
¿Y cómo se relaciona el tema, por lo que estoy viendo, ¿no? El tema social con esa neurociencia de activar quizás esas áreas que normalmente en una escuela tradicional activamos solamente en el recreo?
How do you like do a relationship between the neuroscience and the social skills that a kid will develop in the school?
That's the magic in the butter. When you think about our day-to-day, yes, we are one of the only schools in the country that offers 5 times a week physical education mandatory. And if a school is claiming to work in the world of neuroeducation, that is one of your primary things that you have to do with the scheduling. So after you get your dose, your dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, once you have about 20 minutes of working out and you get to that sweat, that's when your brain starts acclimating towards the retention, and that's how we start to learn at our school. But when you think about it, it's that when you look at the schematics of the school, 25% of the land is dedicated to infrastructure, indoor areas, classrooms, etc. 75% is all outdoor space, our green and our sports purposely. So the biggest heart of a school, and I always say, is going to be the most important classroom of any school around the world is going to be the gymnasium, because it's essentially taking everything that they've learned in a classroom, philosophy, the ethic, but you put it into practice on the courts. Our students, our children, the next generations, they have to learn how to win gracefully, lose even more gracefully, fall down, get back up 100 times, scrape their knee, get over it, make mistakes, but then make new quick decisions here and there. And that's all through physical education. It's being able to take everything you've learned in the classroom and put it into practice. Because if we don't practice, we forget it. And then why even study it? So that's why it's very important to understand the physicality, because I think a lot of schools, they concentrate so much on the academics, on the studying, let's have 7 hours of homework afterwards. And they're missing the point. They're missing the whole point of how we physically actually learn. And so that's why neuroscience, neuroeducation, there has to be a merge. There has to be a merge across the world in every school, because it's the true guide to understanding how we learn.
Yeah, that's how we always say here that el cerebro aprende de manera implícita, no explícita. So you learn from the stuff that you do, that you touch, that you feel. You can learn from what you're reading. Like in med school, you can learn a lot from what you're reading, but the moment that you go to the clinical practice, that's when you're like, what should I do?
Okay.
You forget. Some people will forget everything they read about it, and they're like blank. And once you start doing stuff with your hands, that's when you like put everything together. So I think that's the same principle with school.
It's all
If you
about
don't get your
experience.
hands dirty, you're not gonna be truly learning.
No, I mean, you can remember a fact, but for only how long?
Yeah.
But you always remember an experience. I mean, long-term memory is built by those two elements. It's information, which we are bombarded with information everywhere we go. 99% of it that we see online is all false. And then
Thank you for that.
and then you have emotion. I mean, if you think about our children, 90% of their day, la silla mesa pisadra, where is their emotion? And so that's why when you have communal seating, purposely so they can look at each other face to face, we also have to remember that we learn best from each other. I mean, without even speaking, I know looking in your eyes if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're hungry, if you're all of these things, because it was part of our generation. Unfortunately, it's not part of theirs. And so that's why we have to start looking at all of the societal changes, what we need to do in schools to help thwart, because all of our children, they have to be able to walk out into the world, understand the black, the white, the gray in between, and everything in the middle, and understand how to actuate from there. But it starts from here first.
Yes. So, yeah, we're losing like human contact and human skills because of the technology, and it's very true what you're saying. I remember in my school, like you will stay seated from 7:20 to 1:30. We had 2 recesses, and that's it. Like we didn't have we have physical education once a week. That's it. The rest of
Which
the time
is the
was
minimum.
just sitting in the classroom. I will fall asleep sometimes.
Claro,
Yeah.
obvio.
So the other thing that we like from the school is nutrition. It's a very important thing. I remember when I was going to high school, it was a normal thing to go after class during recess to La Tiendita and buy like Chewies or galleta or like Doritos, and that was a normal thing.
Donuts.
Yeah, donuts and like soda and stuff like that. We didn't have water at the school.
Esa es la parte,
Yeah,
esta es
in
la parte
2003,
que no
it
quieren los
wasn't a
padres
normal
escuchar.
thing to
Sí.
drink water at a school. Like you
Sí.
drink juices with a lot of sugar, or you would drink
Soda.
like soda, and that was a normal thing.
Ujú.
We're trying to change that, and
Mhm.
I don't get mad, but I would like people to understand that even if we did it as a kid, we did it because that was the information that we were handling.
Ujú.
Now we have more information and we know that it's bad.
Mhm.
The fact that we did it doesn't mean that we have to do it when we're kids.
But we also have to remember how the laws have changed since we were kids.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all of the chemicals and all the things that from pre-1990s didn't even exist. And so now when you think about how the laws have changed to allow more than 500 chemicals, I mean, if you turn
Yes.
over a bag of anything and you look at enriched anything, I mean, to me, it's a travesty because when I hear the word enriched means to make better. But then it's the complete opposite when it comes to food and packaging. And so it gets very scary when you think that 90% of the things that are sold in supermarkets are all laced with harmful chemicals that go against our very human nature. And parents have to start realizing that, yes, it is.
It's very difficult for the parents
It
for
is.
like what they cannot see with their
Mhm.
eyes. They cannot
Yes.
touch it. They don't see it. Like for me, my clinic is like they want to give antibiotics to kids for everything
Ujú.
because they cannot see what's going on inside the
Mhm.
gut once they do the antibiotics. So it's pretty difficult for a normal person that doesn't know what's going on and they cannot see it to understand what we're trying to do better.
That's why we have to re-educate the next generation of parents.
Yes.
They have to understand that if we're looking at schools, it's not just what we're studying in books. A lot of parents, we look at the what. What are they going to learn? What are they going to come out with? To be very honest, the what is a base in every school around the world because we look at the standards and they're very, very similar from school to school to school.
Ujú.
Now we have to start fine-tuning our eye to the how. How are students learning? What does the school environment say about how students learn? And we have to start understanding, how much time do our kids actually get to move? Because the more they move, the more they participate, the more they comprehend and retain. So again, we talk about retainment, but then if we're going to talk about nutrition, you think about all of the dyes in food and all of the added sugars, etc. It goes completely against all of our human nature because it causes inflammation,
Yes.
not just the microbiome, but our
Your brain.
brain.
Membrane.
So that's why when you see kids, I mean, it is a travesty to see that such a large percentage of children are medicated with ADD, ADHD, I mean, you name it, and all of these different things coming out now. And you think, hey, what happened in my day when we really didn't have so many cases? Well, let's start taking a look at the food industry. Let's start
Mhm.
taking a look at what has happened since then to understand what's happening now. And that's why we're seeing all of the aftermath of, and unfortunately, it's coming out in the children. And so that's why we've forbidden, well, I know it's hard for a lot of parents to not control the food aspect, but us as a school, if you really want your children to learn, we had to. That it had to be a pillar of ours where we don't allow food to come from home. And I have to be very honest. It's because parents don't do a good job.
Ujú.
You
Yes.
know, your babies bring salmon a la plancha con broccoli, so you think, he's ready with his brain food ready to go. And then you see over here in the corner, his 5 friends bring 5 tipos de galletas, 2 tipos de
Yeah.
jugos. And you're like, but my baby ate healthy, so I don't have to worry, no pasa nada. Actually wrong. That means the teacher is over here trying to refocus the students who just ate 10 times the amount of sugar hace 5 minutos. That means less teaching time across the board for everyone.
Ujú.
So it
Yes.
does affect everyone across the board. So we have to start looking at foods and understanding. We've paired with a third party where they work with a team of nutritionists on top of proportions, age, weight, height, religion, allergy. I mean, you name it, you tell the chef directly. The chef will be able to prepare a menu specifically towards all of their dietary needs.
Ujú.
98.9% of the items that are made from scratch daily by hand, as well as we don't allow preservatives. There are no canned items, no artificial colorings, and we've banned all refined white and brown sugar. If they do add a sugar, it's going to be a monk sugar, but in very minimal amounts. So we are very strict in terms of the consumption for our students because it really truly means retention for our students. And if we're going to talk about learning, we're talking about retention because those are the building blocks.
Y es lo que hemos hablado aquí, que los padres también tienen que entender que no es solamente un tema de obesidad o de... sino que tu cerebro está inflamado. O sea, ningún niño puede aprender si su cerebro está... exacto. Sí, es como cocaína.
Sí,
Total.
sí.
It's actually worse.
Yeah, it's
because
actually
it's
worse.
the most addicting. And
it's socially okay to do it.
Aceptado, sí.
I mean, if we're talking about neuroscience, it's very interesting to see how the food industry have tapped into neuroscience and understanding what makes us addicted, what makes food satiable, so that we'll buy more, so that we'll eat more. And then you look at those chemicals that go against everything that we want for our children. I mean, there is, hands down, there is nothing more important than our children's health and their security. So when we're looking at schools, that's the first thing that we better be looking at. It's not just what they're going to learn. It's not just what they're going to come out with. It's the how. How are we actually getting there? Because when we finally come down to it, it's the por qué. Why are we even here speaking about education? It's because we all believe that knowledge is powered. And we want to put that power in our children's hands. We are very lucky right now, as we sit here, that we are very blessed to be guiding the first milestones of our children's lives. But our legacy lives on in them for the day that we're not here, for the day that they have to stand on their own 2 feet and conquer the world. But that's why we have to start re-educating the masses and understanding what we're looking for, what we need, and what we're going to start demanding. And that's how we're going to start changing the education system. Because if the demand is there, for sure people will come.
Tú mencionaste que tú hacías las, ¿cómo se llama?
The
Los
rotation.
tours. Los tours con los padres. Que se hablan esos tours, que preguntan, porque es parte de lo de la reeducación a los papás, ¿no?
Ah, güey. Qué bueno que viniste.
I think a lot of parents, during my tours, I'm going to be very honest.
No, adelante, sí.
They don't ask too many questions because they're just absorbing a lot of information.
It's very, like, the first time I went to the school with my wife, we're like, I couldn't even talk because, like, all the information that was coming in was, like, too much information, but it was, like...
Eran cosas que no te habían pasado ni siquiera por la cabeza. Claro.
Like, I couldn't imagine a school having all this stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we would like to try to reach more people to change all the school systems. Yeah, it's because it's what's going on. It's what's changing, and like changes are good. The regular school system should try to find a way to slowly adapt and change for the better, for what's going on, for not having one kid in front of the other one, seeing the back of the head the whole class, to not having like physical activity once a week. That thing should start changing, and it should start change like 10 years ago.
Well, it depends how hungry they are.
Yes.
How hungry are you willing to change? And then once you have those hunger pains, and once you have that desire, once you start making those demands, once you have the demand, the supply will come. And so that's why I think that we have to start working from the backwards, where we have to re-educate parents to understand that there are different types of schools out there. What might have worked for us back maybe 30, 40 years ago isn't efficient enough for 2045, for what we're preparing our children to face. And so, I mean, we can speak all day about the things that we all know, but now it's putting words into action. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things here about Panama. Panama is a place to make things happen, where you're not going to find that in many other countries. And so we have to be very grateful to this country for everything that is done, all of the power that it's given to its people to make those changes, because it's very necessary. I mean, thinking about what we've done here in Panama, we wouldn't have done 1% of this over in the States or in Europe. There would be no way. It's just too much red tape. And so we're just very thankful.
couple of episodes ago, we had Mercedes Saturno talking about Educamente and how they're trying to change teachers' minds to like understand that not all the kids learn the same way, that not all the kids have the same needs, and that not all the families have the same needs. And that's what you say, like, depends on how hungry you are for being able to reach that kid and help him to be able to stand by himself when he's an adult.
Yeah, I think the buy-in is very important. And that's why, the parents have to start demanding. And then that's why the heads of schools have to start thinking about, sometimes you look at school systems around the world. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's a continuation of mistakes. I mean, humans, we are on top of the food chain, luckily. But we are the only animal that makes the same mistake twice with expecting a different outcome.
Yes.
Exacto.
Yes.
Pero, por ejemplo, cuando es primera vez que estás buscando una escuela para tu hijo y no sabes cómo es tu hijo, ni qué necesidades tiene, ¿cómo eliges? O sea, ¿cómo sabes si esa es la escuela adecuada?
Complicado. I think it's complicated to find out which school is right for a kid. Depends on a lot of stuff, like where's your location, how far is the school from where you're living, how much can you pay. That's a bunch of stuff going on. So you have to put everything like in the blackboard and see which one works for your family.
Once you have all those dynamics, which is the hard components, and then you're going to start to look at values. And then you're going to start to look at what is the vision of the school? What are they working towards? I mean, if you think about our community, 60 to 70% of our families are all entrepreneurs. They all own their own businesses. And when you think about how the world is changing, I mean, Elon Musk, World Economic Forum, they've already predicted 92 million jobs that exist today will be obsolete in 2030. That's my first graduating class. So we're looking at what we're changing to really make sure that we're not just heads above the water, but 10 steps ahead. And so we have to start thinking about what changes are necessary today so that we're going to make sure that they have those skills for tomorrow. But one of the major factors of how to differentiate from AI and human is that creativity, thinking outside the box. I mean, AI is truly mankind's biggest creative monster that we're currently making. But I think it's important that parents have to align with what the school's values are, and as well for the school to listen to its community about what it is that we're seeking. 10% of the population of the world right now are entrepreneurs. In about 10 years from now, they're predicting 30%, because AI is changing every single industry across the board. It will change the way we do things, how we used to know things. So we have to start really updating our systems into understanding how to gear our students to get ready.
Perfecto.
Well, Mrs. Lee, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you.
Gracias, Quique, por traer invitados tan buenos. Y bueno, nada, a todos, si tienen preguntas pueden dejarlas aquí abajo. Sus comentarios también, que los hemos estado leyendo. Gracias a todos por sus comentarios.
Voy a robar lo que dijiste, what you said about valores y la escuela, ver cómo lucha o intenta alcanzar las nuevas metas que tienen que lograr, pues. Los valores de la familia, lo que tú quieres como familia, y la escuela intentar buscar cómo cubrir las nuevas necesidades que va a necesitar esa familia más adelante. Eso, wow.
Eso es.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gracias, chicos. Ya saben, @Sobreviviendo mis hijos podcast. Denle la campanita para que se enteren sobre nuestros estrenos. Y nada, compartan con amor a alguien que necesite este episodio. Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Este programa fue presentado por NaN Supreme Pro 3. Sorpréndete de tu pequeño siempre. The Little Gym, Serious Fun y Biodefense Plus, tu escudo contra virus y bacterias. Una producción de Spodcast.